Sweetheart, yes, and I left you a little present.
Good afternoon. Wow. Okay. I think it's working. Yeah. I know. Yeah. If I keep it further away. All right. Yeah, I guess. I'd like to call the meeting, Coral Cove condominium meeting of September 18th to order. Yeah. Thanks. No. We'll work with it. Start with the call. Millie, if you could.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jerry Roman.
Here.
Harvey Sylvester. Here. Patty Cook. Here. Joe Brodsky.
He's here on the phone.
Arthur Sternberg.
Absent.
Rosalie Swenson. Here. David Weiss.
He's on the phone.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. All right, we'll start with the minutes of the meeting of the May 15th. I'd like to entertain a motion to waive the reading of the minutes. Okay. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I'd like to get a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Second, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. This may be a little uncomfortable today because 3 of our members are not at the table, so please bear with us. I'll start with a report to give you some insight as to what's going on. It's a little lengthy, so I apologize ahead of time. Let me begin by welcoming you back after a 3-month hiatus. As many of you may be aware, there have been some recent changes to our Coral Cove board. Rosalie Swenson, building captain of Building 16, has replaced Arnie Bernstein, and David Weiss, a longtime resident and member of Coral Cove Finance and Budget Committees, has replaced Seth Dinsky. Both Arnie and Seth made the decision to resign from the Coral Cove board, and I'd like to thank them both for their service to the Coral Cove board. And hello. Okay. I'd also like to acknowledge and send a special thank you to Seth for the outstanding work he did on the SIRS study. He knows it and understands it so well that in a little while, he'll make a brief presentation to help everyone else get a better understanding of it. With these changes, the makeup of the current Coral Cove board is as follows. President, I'm still here. First Vice President and Treasurer is Harvey Sylvester, who will also be representing Coral Cove on the master board until at least the end of the year. Second Vice President is Patty Cook, who's thrilled to add this to the few other duties that she's committed to. God bless Patty. Joe Brodsky remains as secretary, and Arthur Sternberg, Rosalie Swenson, and David Weiss are directors. Today we have a number of other items to discuss, and we'll be voting on a few motions. The first phase of the cleaning of the dryer vents went very smoothly. It took a while to get rolling, but once it got started, it was smooth sailing. Thank you to Patty and all the hard work to coordinate all the efforts between the residents, the building captains, Ed Schweitzer, Sean, Arthur, Christian, and herself. I don't think there has ever been another time that we were able to accomplish a task like this, where almost 200 of our residents were able to meet the challenge of following a schedule that everyone had agreed to. Thank you and kudos to all of you that made this the success that it was. I hope the second phase will work as well when it takes place, most likely after Thanksgiving when all our snowbirds are back, and the hope is to complete the rest of the units. Patty will again take charge of coordinating this effort and will contact those residents involved. More information to follow. Next, I'd like to update you on the roof replacement project. We're still on schedule to begin around the end of October, beginning of November. Contracts have been signed, permits have been applied for, materials have been ordered, and deposits have been paid. We're planning to organize a presentation to our residents detailing what to expect regarding the project. However, until this is set up, I'd like to provide you with some preliminary information. Before any work is started on a building, a representative of the roofing contractor will conduct an inspection of all of the apartments on the 4th floor. This is done to ensure that no damage is done to ceilings or walls of these units due to the work being done on the roofs. These inspections will be documented. An inspection of the individual air conditioning units on the roof will be conducted and documented as well. It's being suggested that those of you living on the 4th floor remove any items of value that may be on the walls or on shelves, just in case there may be some vibrations that could possibly cause damage. This is unlikely, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Since the stands that the air conditioners are currently mounted on are no longer up to code, they are being replaced by new stands that are equipped to absorb vibrations. They're designed to eliminate any noise coming from the units mounted on them. The electrical boxes that the units are connected to, many of which are corroded, are all going to be replaced. The units will be removed from the current stands, and after the coolant has been drained from them and stored to be reinstalled once the new stands have been installed, and the AC units remounted onto them. The original dryer filters that are on the units will have to be removed to drain the coolant and will be replaced with new high-quality dryer filters once the units have been remounted. The units will then again be tested to make sure that everything is operating properly. We are being told that the downtime for anyone to be without air conditioning should be no longer than 2 to 3 hours. The time to replace a roof on a building should be approximately 1 month from start to finish. At this time, the plan is to begin with Building 23. The reason behind this is that that building that will have the most traffic problems due to the access roads into and out of Crystal Point. So the hope is to get this building done before all the snowbirds return. While the work is being done, there will be inconveniences to be sure, but all steps will be taken to keep these at a minimum, and more details are to follow. This is the time of year when we begin working on next year's budget. The Budget and Finance Committees will have their first meeting on October 6th. If there is anyone interested in being a part of this process, please contact me either by phone or email, both of which I'm sure you know where to find. I also want to address the issue of our elevators. Further to what I have reported to our residents via email on September 1st, and as a result of our meeting with TK Elevators, we have come to learn more about the boards that control our elevators. There can be as many as 20 or more computer boards controlling these systems. As in the case that we experienced during the severe storm that destroyed 5 of these boards in 2 of our elevators, not always are replacement boards readily available, and in some instances, even after a damaged board is replaced, does the technician find out that another board is bad that couldn't be detected without replacing the first board. The bottom line is that it's a complicated system with no simple solution. In an effort to help with the situation, the representatives at TK Elevators have identified 5 of the most common boards that usually require replacement. They have suggested to us that they have, as they have done in other communities that are now partaking in this program, is for us to purchase these 5 boards and have them in our inventory. This would ensure that if one of these boards fails, we would have an immediate replacement on hand, creating minimum downtime. The cost to purchase these 5 boards is $8,962.47. After careful consideration and weighing any possible pros and cons, the board felt the prudent decision for the benefit of our residents would be to order not 1 but 2 sets of these boards at a cost of $17,924.94 in accordance with TK's proposal 2025-2-192-7704. We will be presenting a motion reflecting this shortly as well. We are also working with TK Elevators to see what effective surge protection devices may be available in an effort to minimize our exposure. Just for the record, the cost to replace the boards that were destroyed during the storm that knocked out the elevators in Building 18 and 19 was $53,725. We do have insurance for this type of an occurrence, and a claim has been submitted. But at this time, we have no way of knowing what we will be reimbursed because a good deal of that expense was attributable to labor and travel. Obviously, we had no choice but to approve these emergency expenses, and today a motion will be introduced to ratify those expenses. Moving on, in June, we received our annual audited financial statement from our auditor, Stephen Gladstone of Gladstone, Strum and Company. We then met with Stephen Gladstone to go over the report that once again confirmed that all was in order and we continue to be solvent. We will also be presenting a motion to ratify the approval of the audited financial statement as submitted by Gladstone, Strum and Company. I think I've rattled on enough for today, but I want to let everyone know that the annual Coral Cove dinner is scheduled for Wednesday, February 25th, 2026, with more information to follow. But please make a note to save the date. And remember, we're still in hurricane season, so please don't let down your guard. For everyone celebrating the High Holy Days, I wish you all a Shana Tova and an easy fast. Thank you. And now we'll move on to a financial report from Harvey Sylvester. You want this one? That one? Yeah, thank you.
Good afternoon. I want to thank Seth for all the work he's done with all the finances and the reports. He's been very cooperative in helping get this underway, as well as Patty and Rosalie with their technological experience and knowledge. So going forward, I hope to continue in such an efficient manner for the community and the board. As of August 31st, our total operating funds was $683,638. We had reserve funds totaling $1,060,977. Our total other assets were $423,370,000, and our total assets overall were $5,464,782. We have total current liabilities of $709,103, and we have sufficient funds to carry us for at least 60 days and very possibly through the end of the year without any problem.
Thank you. Now we'll get a report from Ed Schweitzer, our property manager.
Thank you, Jerry. Good afternoon, everyone. So just a couple of items I want to touch on today, and that is pressure washing of our buildings, the sidewalks. That is scheduled to begin tomorrow, Friday, at Building 23. And we will be working our way around, going to 16 and all the way around the bend there through next week, and should wrap it up again by Friday of next week. We will be doing the pathways leading up to the doors and things of that nature. If you have anything, that's, tchotchke or whatever out there that you're worried about that might get broken, please take it in, move it up off out of the way. You'll get notices, at least the day before we do any work on the building. So just be looking out for that. Building 19, we did have some damage. Looks like it was related to that storm that unfortunately struck and took out our elevator, as Jerry described earlier. So some of you, especially on the first floor, have heard beeping, incessant beeping on and on and on. That is, the work is now approved. Jerry signed off on that, and they will get those components replaced very soon and stop that beeping, hopefully, ASAP. Building 16 is experiencing some odor in the elevator. It's due to the elevator shaft. At the base, it is subgrade, and unfortunately, with all the rain we've had, there's been a lot of infiltration of groundwater because the water table has risen, and it's stirred up some residual hydraulic oil that's down there and making it stinky. So the board is approved to have that cleaned. We're going to try to do that next week. The water will come back until the water table, lowers slightly here once we stop getting all these rains. But some of the smell will improve in that area, and that's about all the only options we have with that at the moment. We're coming into our mailing season, so you'll start receiving notices for the upcoming annual meeting and voting, elections, etc. Please look out for that. Make sure you fill out, all the information, turn it in, please. We need everybody's participation. And I think we have a work order report, and Millie will take care of that. Thank you.
For the month of August, we had a total of 27 work orders. Out of the 27, I'm showing 21 of them are closed out. I didn't get a chance to check out the outstanding work orders that were pending. So I'll have this updated before it's posted, approved for posting. Thank you.
Thank you.
And can I just say a quick thing?
So Ed, can you hear me? Okay, yeah, sorry. So I just wanted to say thank you. I see the lights are back on at the Coral Cove sign area. Those 2 lights got replaced.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, I
didn't
was there. I
mention
was
that,
walking
did
by
I?
last night and I said, oh, I got to tell it. So
Yes,
they're back
so I
working.
did not mention that. I'm sorry.
No, thank you.
They were replaced. We are waiting on 2 warrantied fixtures to come to us. They are on the brightest settings as they can be, 5,000 on all 4 fixtures.
Good.
Fingers crossed it holds up,
Yep.
right?
Thank
Okay,
you.
yeah.
Thank you, Ed.
Yes.
Before we go on to the SIRS presentation, I'd like to call on Frida Toback. She's the head of the Hurricane Committee, and she'd like to fill us in on whatever's left of the hurricane season.
Oh, no. Wow. This didn't work yesterday, and it's still not working. Well, the green light's on. Toback. Okay, good, okay. No. So my name is Frida Toback. I'm the head of the Hurricane Committee and wrote the original hurricane plan, which is on the Coral Lakes website on the first page. I would hope that every one of you is aware where it is and also that you have all read it. And that is because we have not, as you all know, we have not had a hurricane in a very long time, and we're going to get one. The most recent reports say that the water temperature in the oceans are at their highest level ever, and therefore it is expected that we're going to get a hurricane. In the lifestyles of June, July, and then August and September, I had a column that discussed shelters. And that information will also be included in the updates to the hurricane plan, which I'll tell you about. You need to read that information, especially the information about the special needs shelter If not for yourself, then perhaps for one of your neighbors who may have a need to go to a special needs shelter. Did you know, for instance, that if you can't drive yourself to the shelter, the county will provide transportation? But there are rules. You need to apply for the shelter. You need to bring your supplies. I've listed all of that. The August-September issue, which is still current, talks about the regular shelters and also the pet shelters. So that to me was important, but not as important as the special needs shelters. The October issue of Lifestyles will have an article based on an email that we all got on June 25th. I'm not sure that anybody's read it. I've only met one person who read it. And that email came from Medicare, and that discussion was what happens if during a hurricane or a disaster, your durable medical equipment is damaged and needs to be replaced. If you have straight Medicare, Medicare will replace it. However, if you have Medicare Advantage, I ask everyone to check with your plan now before you need it, because the Advantage plans work differently, okay? So that was that. I've updated the current hurricane plan, and when I receive it, I've asked for it to be sent to me via email so that I can send it to all the presidents as well. You can then send it on to your people or not, but everybody needs to be aware. And please also know that when I wrote this plan, I wrote it so that there's something to do each month, but nothing is overwhelming. I start in March just with a discussion of batteries, which you may or may not know enough about, but it's all in there. And I end in November. There's also an appendix that talks about what to prepare for insurance, information that wasn't included in the monthly thing, but you do need to know that. Also, every one of you should have a door hanger. I ask that you put this door hanger, when not in use, you put the door hanger on top of your refrigerator. And please don't tell me you're short. I'm short too. Just put it there. And the reason I ask that is because if you forget where you put it, your neighbors will remember. Your building captains should know the procedure to follow. And I hope that before a hurricane, when it is imminent, that your building captains will go around to ask who is staying in the building and who is leaving. They will not be available during a hurricane. If you haven't prepared for an emergency, your building captains will not be available. We're all going to be looking out for our own safety. However, at the end of the hurricane, I ask that you take this hanger and that you put it on your front door so that when they come around to check, they know whether you're okay or whether you need help, okay? We haven't ordered any this year, so if you need a hanger, you can ask your hurricane people in your development to do that. I will be at tomorrow's master board meeting, so if I don't have enough today, I'll bring some tomorrow as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frida.
No questions? Thank you. No. Yeah.
But we better check and see if we have enough. And Bernie should be doing that. 'Cause he's doing the one. I don't have enough. I never gave him.
Okay. Are there any questions for Frida? No. Thank you again. All right. I'd like to call on Seth to give us a presentation of the SIR study. Yeah, it's easier over here, huh? Oh, forgot.
Hello?
Can I just,
I think so. You all have copies of this, right?
Yeah.
Good. So I'm working off the spreadsheet one with all the words. Okay. So thank you all for coming. some of this was discussed at the May meeting, and we've changed a few items on here, but there's more people here, or different people's will be good to know. So Florida passed a milestone inspection law in May of '22. This was to make sure all the buildings 30 years and older, or 25 years or older if located within 3 miles of a coastline. We are not in that 3 miles. So it was 30 years we're required. So while we're not 30 years old, the board determined that it's best to do this inspection anyway. Thank you, Ed, for recommending that, to make sure that we had no issues and to see how we stand. So this would allow us to take care of things now and less expensive in 5 years from now when we ultimately had to go ahead and do it. We will have to do this again in 5 years or get an update on what we have. Fortunately, the milestone inspection showed that Coral Cove has no issues at this point. And notice I didn't say major issues. We don't have any issues or major issues. Everything that we have is really under the normal maintenance that we have. And we certainly thank Campbell and certainly our property manager, Ed Schwartzer, for making sure this happened. This milestone inspection is on the Coral Cove website for each of the 8 buildings. It's listed CL milestone inspections, and there's a drop-down building by building. At the same time, Florida also passed a SIRS law. SIRS stands for Structural Integrity Reserve Study. This requires all buildings 3 stories or higher to have this reserve study done to ensure that the structure and related components to ensure adequate reserves to maintain these buildings. The study, based on a new law, has to be completed by 12/31/25 and implemented on the 2026 budget. Just for your information, the cover letter, the SIRS report, the SIRS building spreadsheets, and a building spreadsheet with the amount that we'll be covering the reserves is also on the Coral Cove website. You'd go on to Coral Cove website on the right-hand side, and it'll say SIRS inspection, and the 4 items there are listed. You can click in and view them. And in some cases, you might have to use a plus sign to see them because some of the spreadsheets are small. Basically, the areas covered are common areas, roof, structural systems, fire protection, exterior painting, plumbing, electrical systems, windows, and doors. Coral Cove hired Crane Engineering, who was hired to manage the roof project, to conduct both the milestone inspection as well as the SIRS. We have finalized the SIRS study and have submitted and signed and notarized the report and submitted to Florida as required by law within the time period that we needed to do, which was 45 days from, in this case, July 2nd, when the report was finished, which that July 2nd date is noted on any of the items on the website. So the extra annual reserves from the SIRS study is needed an additional $400,000. However, we have $121,000 in our existing reserves, leaving a balance of $278,000 that will have to get funded annually. What this translates to is a quarterly increase of $254. Please note, and this is very important to note because the board did a really outstanding job getting this down. When this was first addressed to us in January of 25, the number that is $254 was $1,891 a quarter per unit, which of course we would have had a ghost town, and that was absolutely, unacceptable. So what we wound up doing as a board and working together, we went to seminars, webinars, we checked the laws, we did research on sprinkler systems, we did on electrical systems, worked with Ed. We were even, looking at the sprinkler that's in everybody's building to try to get that number down, and we were able to get it down successfully. This number is separate from the usual budget process that we will have, because this is just the reserves portion. On October 6th, I guess, the Finance and Budget Committee will work through bearing in these numbers that we have, and they will go ahead and work with the existing budget of where we're at and how we're doing, to see if there are any additional funds needed. And this will all get voted by in the usual manner for the 2026 budget. Please note that of this $254 increase, that we'll use the number of the 278 that's needed, $278,000. $59,000 would have been added on anyway. Why was it going to be added? The reason why is we finished our roof reserves, and now that we've had the new roof putting on, in 2026, we would have to go ahead and do new reserve numbers. Well, in the calculations that we had based upon actual cost spent, we would have added basically it's $59 of that $274. In addition, $72,000 is for structure. What does that mean? The catwalk repairs and underside of the catwalk, etc. And $62,000 would be for the railings that have to go ahead and get reserved. Coincidentally, we had discussed this last year, and we were going to go ahead and put a reserve this year. So these three items alone, which needed to be put into the reserves anyway, are 70% of that total extra amount. In addition, there's 5 items that we were able to, I'll say, educate the Crane Atlantis to be practical about this, which they were very, very cooperative, that there's 5 items that have a life expectancy of 25 years or greater at this point. Coincidentally, Florida law says that if you have 25 years or more left on your useful life, you do not have to reserve for it now. Bearing in mind that we will have to go ahead and reserve, the board has agreed that we're going to put $10,000 in each one of these for each building. So we're still putting money away, even though that we don't have to. Because, I guess if you go with the commercial pay me now or pay me later, the fact is that by still putting money away, we will be able to now go ahead, and if there's repairs needed, we're able to now go ahead and take them out of reserves. The other advantage of having a reserve for these items are, and this worked with the pumps very well, if you have a reserve item and you have interest in the reserve accounts, then you can use that money. And that's exactly what happened with the pumps, and that's why we didn't have to have, any additional revenue needed from the residents, because we were able to use the reserves interest. And so there's a number of good reasons of keeping these in reserve. So bear in mind that this is a Florida mandate. The statewide average is $300 a quarter. We're at $254, which is lower. And candidly, we've been told that we're in the top 10% of all communities that Crane has worked within respect, spelling error, sorry, to the conditions of our buildings. Campbell has told us that we have more reserves than any other community they work with in Florida, and agree that all of the keeping our community well funded is very, very important. Crane has told us they had not seen a community reserve with all the items that Coral Cove has as well, and feel that we're doing and looking out for the future of Coral Cove as well. These are not words that are just coming from the board. If you were to go and look at the CSRS report, a lot of these items that are just noted about how we're keeping up very well are noted in the report, which they added in, which was wonderful. We have had some reserves in almost half of these categories. We did have to reserve them. Add to them, I'm sorry. In addition, in some cases, we have more reserves than Crane actually feels we need. So on one hand, someone could say, well, lower your reserves. Well, to give you an example, on the painting, they feel that we don't need as much in reserves. Well, we already have a proposal for the next painting cycle, and it's more than what they said. So we don't want to have a situation of shortchanging now and saying, oh, we don't need it, when in reality we know that we do. Again, we're looking out for the betterment of everybody in the long run to be able to not make a pinch later on. We have to have an assessment because we have our reserves too short. I mentioned about the items we had there. And again, I can't overemphasize the work that everybody did to go ahead on the board to try to get these numbers down. It really, really was very, very important. So we had really good discussions with Crane. They're absolutely, happy with everything that we were able to go through and explain to them. And Ed has given him his blessing on this as well, who's probably, the most knowledgeable on a practical standpoint. And because of all the good conditions in the items, we were able to have this estimate reduced in dollars, and as well as some of the life expectancy, as an example, like the railings, the stucco, the sprinkler systems. We were able to show the engineering company that we really are in better shape than what they originally thought, as compared to different items that we found out on the web. So all in all, it is extra money. We would have had to spend this anyway, but we were able to get the blessings and good graces of the engineering company to allow us to come up with a number that nobody wants to spend any extra money. But again, the overriding factor is the board has a fiduciary responsibility, to protect the residents and protect the buildings. And hopefully this is just another example of how the Coral Cove Board continues to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth.
Howard had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, so this is, just pick a number. Say the reserves that we had last year were, I don't have the exact number. Say they were, just for argument's sake, $400,000 or $500,000 a year. So now that $500,000 plus this $256, the new number now will be $756,000. But three of those items, we were, which was 70% of that, we were going to have to add anyway, just due to the nature of the age of the building.
Are there any other questions for Seth at this time? Yes.
This amount will be going further in each year's budget. It is not an assessment, it is an increase to the reserve portion of the budget, which happens on an annual basis. These numbers, so say we had 20 items before in the reserves, we now say we have 27 items, 28 items. So it becomes a normal part of the budgetary process. But these numbers that we have for these SERS items, which will be listed separately on the budget, those are really mandated by the report that we have. Does that answer your question? It'll continue like all the other reserves, yes, and it could go up, could go down, depending upon if we continue to have, a second, let's say for argument's sake, in 10 years from now, when we're needed to go ahead and do this report, and let's say the railings are in still great shape, and their life expectancy is higher, then we may not have to add any more going further. It may stop if we satisfy that. I'm not saying it will, but it all depends upon the condition of these items and how well they are maintained. And in that report, it'll tell you virtually everywhere that it says you need to get a contract for this, you need to maintain this. There's also a note stating that Coral Cove does have contracts to maintain all of this. Okay, so I understand your question. We did have enough reserves. Example, every time that we have painted, and I think we have painted at least 3, maybe 4 cycles, there was never any additional funds, because from day one, the board has put enough money aside. the elevators that were, I guess, finished their, upgrade on the alarm systems now, there was no additional funds that were needed. So we do have more, but what the state government said is, you now have to go ahead and cover this item, this item, this item, this item, which were not mandated before, and they were used more or less as repairs. The fact that we, in our stucco, in our plumbing system, in our fire sprinkler system, that we have greater than 25 years indicates how well these items are maintained. So we would not want anybody to think that we didn't have enough of these reserves. The only reserve that was a little oddity in this case was the roof reserve because of an insurance company situation. But in everything that we've done, including the pumps that we put in, the air conditioners that were needed in the elevator rooms, all of that was taken out of existing funds. There was no additional assessments that were needed on that. And I think that's to the credit of the board from day one up until today. I hope that answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no other questions on that right now, I'd like to go back to a landscape report from Patty.
Good afternoon. Just a really quick update on landscaping. So right now, we're starting to remove the coleus that's all in the entrances, as well as the Cove sign area. We're getting down to the end of really the cycle with them. So folks are going to see that in the entrances in the Coral Cove sign area, anything that we had the coleus in there, that's actually, I think it's all removed. In fact, when I was coming over here, Palm Beach Broward was removing them. We are going to be, I would say, probably mid to late October. We're going to be installing in all those areas the sun patients, which are the very colorful, flowers that we have. So we're in the process right now of finalizing the colors and the counts. But you'll see those installs happening probably in the mid-October timeframe. We have completed the 2025 tree trimming for Coral Cove. I think most folks probably saw them over the past week, going all around the community in the common areas. In front of the buildings, we had everybody, which was a great success, by the way, everybody moving their cars. So we appreciate all that help in the front of the buildings. And they just completed it this past Monday. Oh, sorry. Is that what it is? Oh, okay. Okay. Is that better? Yeah, I guess so. So at this point, we are still in the process during 2025 of, we've had some work done over at building 22 and 21, the side of the building. We've removed basically, shrubs that are down to the stick level at this point. So we're still continuing, replacing shrubs. We had in front of building 19, a lot of the cherry hedge or the ficus shrubs that were at the end caps that were like over 20 years old when they were originally built. Those have all been ripped out and replaced with podocarpus. We're going to be putting some stone, just so the folks in building 19 know, on those end caps. I know with all the rain that we've had, some of that stuff is, the residue is coming onto the parking lots, but the stone will be installed next week. So that will, and we'll put some landscaping black trim in there as well. So, so again, we're really going through all the areas and still continuing to replace the things that, need to be replaced based on the age of the community. And that's really about it, unless anybody has any questions or thoughts. So, thank you.
Thank you, Patty. At this time, I'd like to vote on the motions that we have on the floor. I think you all have a copy of them. You want to read one of them? Or two of them? Yeah.
Okay. So the board motions, September 18th, 2025. The first one is the 2024 audited financial statement. Motion to authorize the president to accept the audited financial statement of the Coral Cove financials for 2024 from Gladstone Strom and Company. Do I have a motion?
You just made the motion.
Okay, we did. Okay. Okay, all in favor, is that?
Now we have to get a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
You can do that part.
Thank you.
Okay.
We have 6.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody opposed?
We passed that already.
Okay, good. Okay, number 2. How am I doing? Anyway, TK Elevator Company Repair. Motion to ratify the approval by the president of the emergency repairs to the elevators in buildings 18 and 19 caused by the lightning strikes, as identified on the TK Elevator statement of July 2025 in the amount of $53,724.46.
Can I get a second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you.
Okay, the third and final is the TK Elevator Company purchase. This motion is to authorize the president to approve the purchase of 2 sets of computer boards consisting of 5 boards per set in accordance with TK Elevator Proposal Number 2025-2-1927704 at a total cost of $8,962.47 per set. And that would be for a total cost of $17,924.94, inclusive of all taxes.
Can you get a second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. I thank you all. At this time, I'd like to open the floor for any questions. Please come up to the mic. Identify yourself and where you reside, please.
Yes, my name is Barry Cohen. I live in building number 22, apartment 102.
Excuse me, Barry, your last name?
Cohen, Barry, first name. Apartment 102 and building 22. I have a concern about the lake behind our house, or our apartment. It looks like part of the banks have been redone, and I brought a picture of it, and the other part has not been. I was told that Laurel is in charge of the lakes. I contacted her, and she said it's a work in progress. What I'm not understanding, we moved in last year in July, and there was no work done on it then. And this is September already. This is the second year.
I will tell you, before you go any further, I will tell you that the lakes are a master board issue,
Oh,
and that's a question that should come up at the master board meeting. However, what this is an ongoing process that's, being done to stop the erosion of the lakes.
Right.
And it's every year they budget a certain amount of money to go from lake to lake to lake, and the worst parts are being handled, and it's in a priority basis. So a part of our lake was done, and then they actually stopped it because they had an emergency situation at another lake that took priority over our lake at this time. And I think we're scheduled to come back and finish it either next year or the year after. But it's an ongoing thing over.
expected to be finished next year or the year after?
Correct,
Okay,
possibly.
as long as there's a schedule to.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Judy Bergeson, Building 18. Out of curiosity, I was just wondering, we have 6 apartments up for sale in my building, and are we collecting maintenance? Some of these apartments have been unattended for quite a while already, with nobody living there. Are we still collecting money?
Yes, we are.
We are,
Yeah,
okay.
there's no arrears, actually.
There's no
in-
arrears?
not-
Okay.
Not in
I
your
was-
building. We have some in other buildings, but not in yours.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Marilyn Ruderman, Building 19. I happened, by chance yesterday, I was trying to set up a recording for the
master board meeting on Friday, and I happened to, on a Regal Shores board meeting, and they were discussing something about stations for charging electric cars, that this is going to be mandated by the state. Ed, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. And so the reason why they're discussing that today, or now around this time, is because they're contemplating a mill and pave, which is removing their pavement and redoing all of that in in the somewhat near future. And so what they're trying to do is looking to the future, maybe save a few bucks downstream, designated area, putting in some of the infrastructure. We're talking about conduit. It's just underground.
Yeah, but,
Instead of doing the asphalt now and then coming back at a later date and cutting it all up and creating a bigger mess, just kind of getting ahead of things.
but
Perhaps.
this is going to be for all condominiums?
Yes. That looks like that's the future. Condominium or the state legislature and whatnot are all been looking at how they're going to apply that at some point in time in the future.
So that will be mandated by Palm Beach.
It'll be
the
state. It'll be state
State.
level. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Who's going to pay for this?
Howard Meyer, Building 19. I'd like to commend the board for the obtaining of what we used to call at AT&T a crash kit, and having available necessary circuit packs for outages. But my question is, with this elevator company, I believe it's TK, I believe you said, has anyone questioned them about the feasibility of proper grounding and lightning protection around these buildings to possibly attract the lightning so that it would go away from our elevators and maybe into the lakes or ponds? I think we need a subject matter expert on lightning and how to deal with it and protect our elevators so that we don't have outages lasting more than a week.
Yeah. I did mention in my report that we are working with TK Elevators just on that subject.
Okay.
On different, whatever variations or possibilities
Yeah,
that are
because,
available to us.
In the building I'm in, there are people that use walkers and they don't have the ability.
Howard,
to
we
use-
believe me, we are aware of it.
Okay.
We've been dealing with this for a number of years.
Thank you
and-
for
and
all that you do.
Thank you.
Bernie Grossman, Building 19, co-captain.
You say that with such conviction.
Yes. Just a couple of general questions, really not pertaining to what was said today. I know we had discussions months ago about putting some kind of reflective coating on the glasses by the elevator, on the windows, because you stand there on a hot day, it feels like you're in a 150-degree oven waiting for the elevator. I forgot what I was going to say again, but that's one of my questions.
You were going to ask, has anything been done about it, right? Yeah, it's actually on the back burner, but I still have it on Patty's actually doing a little research on this while she's doing a few of her other tasks. Dozens of tasks. But we haven't forgotten about it.
Okay, all right, just a general question.
That was it?
That's it. I forgot what else I was going to say.
Hi, Honey Lip, Building 18. On the 4th floor, we know the roofs are going to be done. What is the possibility of downspouts from the roof when it rains? And I'm not talking about the driving rain coming at the windows, but when it rains, the rain comes down on the windows. There's no way that it can go out. We right now are going to have to replace our windows because they're leaking. But if there were some kind of a downspout to deflect the rain away from the windows, it might help.
Ed, you want to comment on that?
So you're talking primarily on the back of the building, yes?
Yes.
I'm not sure so there's a lot of things that go into it. It's a complicated situation. Those are flat roofs, and they're really not designed to have gutters in that way. Not to mention the volume that comes off of that roof. There are drains on the roof that actually run down through the building that are intended to handle that. Unfortunately, when you have the type of volume that we're dealing with, okay. Yes, no, yeah, here we are. So with the volume that we've had recently, especially the storms that we're seeing, it doesn't matter what you do, it's going to come down those buildings. It's going to come down the back. It's going to come down the front. And it's going to wash over those buildings. Even with gutters back there, they just can't handle that kind of volume we've been getting. Whenever it hits the window like that, especially when we have driving rains with the wind that hits against them, there's just really no magic answer here. Gutters might help a little bit, but for the
walls
cost,
sealed enough so that the rain will not get into the walls and cause mold? That's another concern.
so
That's not the problem. The problem is when it rains. I'm not talking about wind.
no, I
I'm talking
understand
about
that.
just plain
Understood.
old straight rain.
Understood.
I have pictures of it running down the window.
Yes, sir.
Now, any house I lived in,
Yeah, well, this is, again, I don't know if you lived in the same house, type of house. You're on
I
a,
lived with her.
you're in a four-story building, unfortunately. As that water falls, it's going to come closer to the building, and it's going to hit the windows. It's just, unfortunately, that's with the volumes of water you're talking about. It's not even intended to come off that way. The buildings aren't even pitched that way. They have drains on the roof in the center, right next to where the air conditioning units are. Oh, we check them on a regular basis. It's just the volume.
the new roof has nothing to do with that.
Well, the new roofs will have pitch and everything. They add a lot, especially the new roofs will have, additional pitch to them as well.
Okay, that's what we want to know. Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am. Windows are the way to go, by the way. The ones you have are not great.
Okay, I remembered what I was going to say.
All right.
There was some talk about repainting the carports.
Yes, we actually did a test on Building 23 last month, and we just have to start scheduling the rest of the carports.
See how it goes. See how
Yeah.
it goes.
And will they be replace some of the downspouts? Because some of them are squashed in. People obviously hit them with their cars or...
That's a separate issue. If you have them, if you see them, what's been happening with those actually, Sean's been replacing them, without having to call in somebody if it's just a section. And actually, with Sean or Arthur doing it, it saves the community a lot of money because they just take out a section and replace it. But ideally, what you should do is, if you have that, just take a picture of it and probably generate a work order. It's probably the simplest way to do it.
Okay.
Okay.
One last thing, going with that, can you put a splash block at the bottom? Because some of them, it's actually making a hole in the blacktop there.
No, you can't really put anything in that spot. That would become a huge issue a liability thing. But that being said, if there's a hole or something, we come up with an answer for that. If it's really undermining, most of those have concrete. It's all sealed over. You don't really notice it. But if for some reason it's coming up and it's causing some kind of undermining, we'll go in there and clean it out and lay in some more hydraulic concrete.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other questions or comments? If not, just want to remind you, this meeting has been recorded, and if you're interested in seeing it all over again, you can see it on the Coral Cove website.